Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining our July webinar. Really excited about this month's webinar. I think we have a lot of interesting topics for you this month. In fact, so many that I'm actually a little bit concerned about time, but I really want to say I appreciate you guys making time in your schedule to learn a little bit more about our software and learn about some of the ideas that hopefully help you enhance your sales and your practice and ultimately give you a better customer experience. For those of you who are familiar with our software, again, we're going to go over a lot of different topics today. The first one we're going to focus on is really imports to the system. Recently, there's been a heavy focus on importing clients into the system with Inforce Pro closing their doors. Thankfully, they gave everyone a CSV spreadsheet file with their clients in them, and I want to show you how you can use that to natively import them into Life Design Analysis just by dragging that spreadsheet over. But I'm also going to show you how you can take any carrier export and also bring it into the system, or really any kind of spreadsheet at all, including that of a CRM or something like that. So that'll be our first topic. The next topic we're going to work on is working with templates within the system. So these are the different ways you can lay out your LDA report. Again, there is customization for different color palettes as well as templates that kind of change the look and feel of the report. And I just want to show what some of those are like, because I find a lot of people stick with the default one and don't even realize that you can change the color in there. The next concept we're going to work on is really an email marketing campaign focusing on how we can use a shared case of some kind of persona, such as a lifetime gift for a grandchild, and really work it into our email marketing and send it to all our clients to generate some nice warm interest and leads. And our next case is going to be a term conversion case study. Now, just quickly before I begin, I want to cover, for those of you who are maybe looking at Life Design Analysis for the first time, again, we're a sales and presentation software, really a productivity software that really helps you when putting together a proposal for your clients. Now, for those of you who haven't tried it, definitely take advantage of our 30-day free trial. Again, you can sign up, try the software for 30 days, and at the end of the 30 days, you can choose between one packages. So again, they range from about $50 a month all the way to $90 a month for our Premier package, but still really affordable. The other thing that we have, again, when you are signed up and at that point when you're paying, again, remember, if you are a Life Guide subscriber, you do get half off of any of these packages. So the Pro package would go down to $25, the Elite package $35, and our Premier to $45. So again, just by having a Life Guide subscription, you're able to take advantage of that 50% discount. And we do that because the rates inside of our system are all driven from Life Guide. So without further ado, I'm going to get into our first topic, and that's all focused around the import. So I'm going to log into my account here to tackle this import. And what I want to show you is I've kind of set up a dummy account here, and if I look in my Manage Clients area, you can see I have no data available, meaning I don't have any clients in here. Again, one of the first things is, in the system, whenever I create new cases, again, all that product, that I'm comparing is of course going to be saved, but as soon as I create a new client, they're going to be saved as well. And from a convenience standpoint, again, a lot of times what I would really say, and from a productivity standpoint as well, is that one of the first stages is actually to import your block of business. Again, the system's going to feed you all sorts of wonderful notifications on policy opportunities, client birthdays, but really having all of your policy holders in one spot that you're able to, kind of gather different information, or even maybe it's pull up a phone number when you're out and about on your smartphone, it becomes very valuable. Now, there's a couple different ways to import your block of business, and I'm going to cover a few of them today. Now, when I go to import, you're going to see within the client import, we have a few different options, and this has all been fairly recently changed here. We've just done some updates, as I said, because of the Inforce Pro change with them getting out of the business to advisors. Now, luckily what they did is they sent everyone a CSV file of that Inforce Pro client list. Now, we customized it so that spreadsheet can actually natively drop right into our program. So if I go import spreadsheet file, all I have to do is select that CSV file that they had sent. And so you can see it came and usually it had a client name, inforcepro.csv, and it came inside of a zip file. Well, all I have to do is select that file that they gave me, and of course I can upload that. Now, all of those clients that we imported are going to be found within this Manage Client area, and that's what's going to feed those notifications as well. So when when it looks for certain policy opportunities, it bases it off of issue date, product description. And again, of course, we can click these buttons, Term 10 conversion, Term 10 exchange or swap, and Term 20 conversion to find certain product types that may be certain policy opportunities. But that doesn't mean that we can't make our own filters as well. So again, any of these areas on the top, for example, let's say I'm looking for a particular client age. Again, I can sort by a specific age of client as well. And perhaps a new CI product or something that really focuses in on a certain demographic is very popular. I might want to find all my clients of that age. So again, it's very valuable to bring in these kind of client information, not only for a convenience standpoint when you're creating new cases, but also to find certain opportunity within your block of business. Now again, you don't have to be an Inforce Pro past subscriber to bring in your block of business. It is one of the easier ways because they handed those files to you. But those files are actually able to be found from any insurance carrier out there. So again, if I go into my import clients, again, before you would have just seen our generic import where essentially we took the spreadsheet from the insurance company, migrated it over to our own template, and then uploaded it. Now this is still available. Again, as you can see, you just download the sample file here. When you receive the spreadsheet from the insurance company, you can copy and paste them over manually. Now, again, that did take a lot of time, and we offered on our end that we would do it for you. But again, we wanted to find a better process. So again, while this still exists, I want to show you basically the best way that I would say is to do it. And this is our new custom importer. So again, this is fairly new. If you do have any issues with it, again, do let us know. There are still going to be certain outliers with exports. Again, it's really based on the quality of data that we get from the insurance company that really allows us to do the best import and notify you of all those policy opportunities. Now, how this custom import works is I would select import, and it takes me to a file, and again, it's saying it's 4 easy steps, and one of them is requesting from the wholesaler, or again, a lot of these companies have a link on their website where you're able to actually go download your block of business and all that client information. Once you have that file saved, again, we just want it in a CSV format, and if you're, again, not comfortable with this area of manipulating files or just saving them as a new file type, again, more than welcome to help you out in this area. Now, once you've saved it as a CSV, all you have to do is select it inside the file browser here. So I'm going to click and I'm going to grab a Forrester's export that I've actually got. And you can see this is a Forrester's test file that I've gotten from a real export. And I'm just going to select it. I've saved it already as a CSV file. And I'm going to say open. And then just upload. Now, once it uploads, again, it reads all the information on that spreadsheet and really just asks you to map the particular areas. So again, I'm looking for insured name, for first name. Now, ideally, we'd want to split these into first name and last name. So if you do get, let's say, this spreadsheet, for example, when you're actually doing it on your clients, just make sure first name and last name are selected separately. Otherwise, it'll bring in 2 copies of the first name like I'm going to do here. Again, you're looking for a birth date. In our system, we call it a birth date. They may not call it a birth date, but they may call it DOB. So let's take a look here and find out what it would be on the, they call it date of birth there. So again, I'm matching these two. So we're looking for the birth date. That's on our spreadsheet that we've got from the insurance company. It's called date of birth. Again, same thing, gender. We want to find out. They call it sex. Smoker status, again, we can put it in there. And basically what we want to do is we want to go all the way down. Now, if they don't have one in there, again, we're just going to have to leave it blank. So just definitely take a look here. And again, this is why it's so important to have a complete export. This one does not have a smoker status. And what will happen if you don't specify smoker specifically is the system will assume they're a non-smoker until they're edited. So that will be the default. Again, not a lot of exports come with emails. I know for a fact this one does not. This one is a good one, though, and does come with the phone number. So I can simply go down and say I want to match phone number. And you can see we call it phone, they call it phone number. Again, I want the insured address. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to find that address. And again, I can add things like city and postal code, city and province. I'll put postal code there. Oh, sorry. I'm going to change that to city, country, province. They don't have province, so I'll skip that one. I will go down to postal code. I definitely saw that one. and again, policy number. And again, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to fill all of these out. Again, product description is a really important one here, and this is basically the plan description. But again, this comes with all that kind of information, again, that a lot of those notifications are fed off of. Again, the face amount is how much is insured, and I'm just going to look down here, and they call it face amount as well. Policy premium, this would be like an annualized premium. So I'm going to select that. And again, if it had any cash value, some of these spreadsheets come with cash value. Again, they're kind of, I don't find that's maybe the most particularly useful area, because these cash values are often changing on a monthly basis, hopefully in a positive manner. And then again, very important one is policy issue date, and that in this case is called effective date, EFF date. And again, all I have to do now is click upload, and it's going to take all that information there and tell me that it's been successful. And again, now all that manage clients area is going to have all of my custom information in it. Again, you can also see there's also the option to permanently delete all of the clients and cases. Now, again, a lot of you were wondering, where do I get this export that you're talking about from the insurance company, and could it be easier to get? Well, again, we've heard your requests, and we used to have a couple of the popular companies on there to request client files from. We've actually extended that. So go down and take a look at the company that you're looking to request your clients from. So again, if you do a lot of business with Empire Life or Equitable Life, again, all you have to do is say request clients, put in your advisor code, and just check this give permission and click send. Now what happens is it sends an email to the contact at Equitable Life. They will email you the spreadsheet back. It doesn't come back to us, it goes back to you, and then you can go through that import process that I just showed. Again, if you don't want to wait around for someone to fulfill that, you can also go and click the login. Oftentimes there is a rep center on the advisor site, and we try and link you to these. Again, if any of them don't work, do let us know and we can update them, but that should make it a little bit easier to get that kind of information. So that's our updates to the client importer. Now, the next thing that I wanted to work on was a little bit of template and account information. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go and take a look at a previous case of mine here. And again, I often focus on this being one of the first steps in creating your account. So again, I've got a CI split dollar case here. I can generate the report just to show you what kind of the generic default template looks like. And again, this is, of course, got my company logo. I've chosen the nice LDA blue, and it looks really nice. Now, again, this would be something where if I'm printing off a lot of these reports, this heavy blue bottom might run through my toner in a very bad way. And let me just zoom out here just a little bit so we can show more of this beautiful template. So again, just to give you an overview of the look. Now, let's say, for instance, I go, okay, you know what? Let's say John in the office uses the same template as me, and I don't want to have the exact same report because we have the same company logo. I want some differentiation to mine. So again, in the account settings, you can actually go up, and again, a lot of people start and customize that logo, but you can customize things like even the color scheme. So again, I might change it from scheme 1 to scheme 10. This is more of a dark scheme. And I might go from template 4 and say, you know what, I want it to be a little bit lighter in ink. I'm going to try template 1. And of course, all I'd have to do is save my report settings, let's say, and all of the new cases or any new case that I generate is going to draw from these account settings. And so let's just go and I'll open up a new tab here to take a new look at what my changed report has looked like. So again, I've got this CI case. I'm going to generate it again, and we're going to just visually notice some of the changes to the report. So again, before where we had that heavy blue bottom with the logo in the middle, now we've got the logo up left. It's a lot lighter. This is going to be a lot more friendly on our toner or our printer ink. Some of you may be sharing these cases interactively, not printing them out, and may not care about how easy on ink it is. But again, it just kind of shows you how you can customize those different templates just to change the look and feel. You can also see some of the accent colors here now in red and black, and that's because that's what that template was focused on. Let me just go back into the account settings here again where that's found and just show that you can download a copy of those color schemes. So it'll show you what they all look like. It's generally the first color that really is weighted for the template or the color scheme, I should say. And we also have the templates. And just to show you here again, we have a download template file. You can take a look here. It shows one, that nice light ink one. 2, a little bit more robust with the ink on the bottom. And these are all done in one color just to give you an idea of how it splits up that look and feel. A lot of the tables and things like that definitely change as well. And again, you can see the 4. That's probably my personal favorite. This is the one I generally use on my account. I like the big blue border. I like the centered logo. But again, if you like your logo down in the bottom right, you can see, it just sort of changes the look and feel of it. So between that and the color combinations, again, feel free to get creative and kind of customize that account, as well as the other aspects in the account settings. Again, really, as I say, this is where, you're displaying all that information. So we pre-populate some things like presented by name, but it's a good recommendation to say things like customize your mission statement. So put in something that's, consistent with your brand. Again, this may be just a simple copy and paste from your website. You may have already set up that information. And the other thing, again, is all your contact information at the end. Even things like your default report components can be customized in there, and even your life guide preferences. And again, I know I mentioned it at the beginning, but I really want to stress again that integration with Life Guide, where they set us all those rates and values, are extremely valuable for the platform. And again, if you're using Life Guide and not aware of the discount, again, make sure you enter your serial number as the Life Guide discount and you get a 50% off. Now, the next concept that we're going to be working on is really more of an elaborate concept, including email campaigns and case sharing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new client, and I'm going to call this one Mr. Baby. It's more like a Sir Baby or something like that. Now, as far as the birthday goes, we're going to say that this is a brand new baby. So we're going to say this is someone who was just born. Again, this could be 1 to 4 years old. The comparison usually works best with someone who's quite young. And in my case, I'll use a baby boy here. Of course, he's not a smoker. Though if he was, you would just simply check that off. And I'll go ahead and save this. And again, Mr. Baby is now created. Now I'm going to hit continue, and we're going to create a case for this baby whose age nearest 0 or who is brand new. And again, instead of picking an insurance benefit, I'm actually going to use a whole life concept in this one. Now, a lot of people would say, why do babies need insurance? And frankly, it might not be a bad idea to have some insurance in place. But I think these sort of plans, when you equip, someone with a whole life plan for a child, make a really nice savings vehicles. And I actually do this on both of my children as well, where I have whole life policies that, yes, they're insurance, but I'm really trying to use them more for the cash value or to pass on the insurance to them later on when it comes time for them to buy a house. Again, at least then they'll have permanent insurance and not have to go through sort of that step term approach. So I'm going to focus on equitable life here. I've actually got one drawn up. And essentially what I'm going to do is the same step you would normally do for a whole life case where, again, you say you're going to add whole life, and we draw up the quote in the illustration software. So you can see I've come over here. Now, what I've done in this is I've actually made this a male age 1 year old is what I've put in there. So I can update my comparison as well. And instead of picking a certain face amount, you may want to start with something like $250. That's still quite a bit of insurance for, for a child. I've actually solved for a face amount. So I said that this was basically going to be done on the basis of a $5,000 deposit per year. Again, not something outrageous for grandparents or parents to put aside for their children as, sort of maybe it's an additional savings, seeing some of the cost of education these days, it may be like an RESP top-up. But again, a lot of grandparents are looking for ways to build savings for their grandchildren. I've certainly seen it with my kids. As soon as you have kids, the grandparents, that's all they care about, your chopped liver after that. So, this is a great strategy that might work across your entire business. But, the concept I'm building, while it's for a child kind of today, even the term rider or the term conversion campaign that I'm going to do next, would work equally well in this sort of strategy. But again, the process is the same. I've taken my $5,000 deposit for 20 years, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to export all this information to Excel at a whole life quote. And you can see my whole deposits there. I'm just going to select everything, and I'm going to use the copy-paste method. So once I copy all this information, all I have to do is go back to Life Design Analysis and paste it in the spreadsheet. Now once I click Upload, it's going to read all this information and make a great case here for Mr. Baby. Perfect. Now, I'm going to generate the report here. Now this is just going to be a single product, so I don't necessarily want all of my all of my report components. So I'm going to take out things like the annual premium. I'm just going to show a sum of premium. I am going to show the cash value and insurance benefit. I don't need the credit to the CDA. I do want the presentation. I don't want the alternative investment. And I don't want any of this internal rate of return stuff. I just want my contact details at the end. So really, I want to focus on the costs and the values and really focus on the concept. I'd probably add a report note page as well for this. But what you're going to see is I'm going to add kind of the extra information about my concept here in the shared case or in the email campaign that I'm going to combine with this shared case. So again, I'm just showing costs. And again, this is sort of really what I want to highlight in on is that, while there is a premium there, you can see it in red, it's, over 20 years, $100,000. So it's really not a big cost, especially in relation to some of that cash value. And again, we could even focus on guaranteed cash value, and it's still going to look quite good. Now, you can see with this kind of concept, again, because premiums are so small and cash value is so large, one of the other things that we may want to kind of refine in this case, and I'll just go back really quickly, is that we may want to use our condensed charts option. And this is really just for cash value. You can see there's an option to condense charts here. And I'm just going to select yes. And again, this one was really designed for displaying these sort of plans for children because, again, 100 years of information in a chart can kind of make everything seem a little bit smaller and a little bit out of scale. So it's just to help kind of reduce that kind of information. And again, what we'll see is a little bit, kind of a similar approach where we see the sum of premiums being $100,000. We see the total cash value, that non-guaranteed component at $127,000. We see the full guaranteed component, if I bring it in there, at $71,000. So again, pretty strong guarantees, especially as we go out in time, and we can see that, around year 30, if we wanted, we are almost guaranteed to have all of that money back. Again, we can see what a reduced example would do, but it gives a really good idea of, the growth in this kind of platform. And again, if you're still thinking that, this is a little too small, feel free to cap these around age 60 or something like that. So again, even if I went up to the top here and said, let's focus in on the time, I could clip this and say, analyze this to age 60. Because again, that'll still be, when we think about the parents or grandparents, they'll still be, a little bit older at that time. So again, we don't necessarily have to look out 100 years for this sort of concept to really look good. And again, by that time, they would have effectively transferred this policy over. And again, you can see those charts show up a little bit more clearly here because I focused it to just year 60, and I won't see all that extra growth. And again, still really impressive cash value on the total. Again, not necessarily a guaranteed value, but when we do look at the guaranteed, even if we just focused on that, that's a substantial gift for that grandchild. So once we get this sort of gifted kind of presentation looking the way we want, now is the time where we can present it. And again, we've got all that information in there. We can go through, we've got all our contact info, and then all I have to do is click share. So again, a lot of people generate these PDFs. What I want to focus on is creating that shared link. So I'm going to say share this. And what it's going to do is it's going to create a unique URL. Now again, I may want to set an expiration date. If I'm concerned about this being opened a year from now by my clients and them expecting to get the same rate on the product, I may want to expire this after, a few months so that, they need a new illustration basically before doing it. So I'll set an expiration date. I'll just say January. So I'll say this one's good for about 6 months. Now, the other thing I want to do in this particular campaign is request some visitor information before viewing. So again, I can see that, I maybe want to know something about them before they log in. So I'm going to require first and last name because when I send this out to my user base or my clients in your cases, I want to know which clients logged in. And if I send them all the same link, I'll certainly get notification of each view, but I want to require that they need certain information to actually log in and access that case. So again, I'm just going to update that so it includes it. I'm also going to copy this link, and this is how I'm going to get people to go visit it. In previous examples, I've shown this on how to send it out there. Now, once you've generated and got the report looking like you want, you've required the proper information, and you've actually copied and pasted or copied that URL, now it's time to actually design your email campaign. And there's a lot of free email campaign builders out there. So MailChimp is an example of a free one where you don't need any money at all. You can design a template, give it a name. So I've given this a lifetime gift. And again, I've got some information, and a lot of this information I kind of just copied and pasted from an advisor who actually did this, Chad, with his clients, and again had phenomenal results with it. So I wanted to share it with all of you. And again, I've designed a template that I can actually send out to you. So again, if you're looking for an HTML template that you can use, again, definitely get in touch with me. But again, what it has here is some information for our client. So again, you feel free to customize this, but talks about the concept itself. So if you're a parent or grandparent wishing to provide an asset for your children, puts a few of those value propositions in, some of the benefits of owning a policy on a child, and having that tax-exempt growth, or even just passing on the insurance to them, so it's one less expense they have when they buy a house, and they'll have that kind of permanent protection. Again, feel free to customize this information. I've just got a little bit of information about things. Again, very good point, locks in your child and grandchild's insurability. So even if health becomes an issue, we hope it's not. We don't really want to focus on that, but it is a positive of getting insurance at a young age, especially that's going to grow. And then at the very end, what we're going to do is, in our call to action, we're going to say we want to help and show you this is an actual case. And basically what I'm going to do here is, in my campaign editor, I'm going to put a link to that shared case that I just created and save and close that. Now, essentially what happens is, when we kind of launch our campaign, and I'll just give a little preview of this, this is how it would look to our people that we send it out to. So these are our clients. So we send them a nice kind of email marketing message, and all they have to do at the end is click that link, and that's going to take them into the Life Design Analysis shared case. And from there, again, they'll have to log in with their information. So let me just close this. And what I'm going to do is, let me try and send a sample. I'm going to save this. And I'm going to send a test. And I'm just going to send it to myself here, just to give you an idea here. And I'll send that. So that should come in very shortly. Okay, so I've gone into my email here, and I've received my little test email about a lifetime gift. And again, feel free to customize this with any sort of information. The template that I'm going to distribute is going to have an area where you can easily customize your logo and things like that. Again, you can even customize things about the concept if you want to use different wording. And again, my whole call to action is about the case study below. Now again, let's just view this. So again, as I get down to the bottom here, I'm going to say open in a new incognito window. That way it doesn't know I'm the advisor. And again, what you'll see is that your clients, if you send it out to all of them, again, have to log in and view their information to actually view the case. And again, I'll put Charlie Conron here and hit proceed. And again, now I can see this case for Mr. Baby. I can comment on the case. I can call my advisor. And again, this is all the information on the advisor file that you customize in your account settings. I can send you an email or even visit your website. Again, when I get to the kind of the case that you've designed, I can go through the information and see, here's what the total cost is. I see that it caps out at $100,000 over that 20 years. But again, I'm only giving the $5,000 each year. So each year it builds up and up and up. And again, I want to see the value that I'm getting for that. So you can see here in 5-year increments, the money output there in red versus the total cash value in green, or the guaranteed cash value, or the reduced. And again, your clients are going to be able to engage with this. It's going to be your branding on there, links to your website, and just really enhances that professional image that you have. Again, they can interact fully with this case. And again, email you if need be, or even visit your website, give you a call. So again, this is going to be really valuable information for the client. They're really going to appreciate that you've sent it to them. Again, great strategy. And the neat thing too is that when we get out of that incognito window here and actually go back to Mr. Baby, again, if we go back to our case here, when we look at some of those notifications and statistics, we can actually see someone has viewed the case that we shared. They clicked on it 3 times. And again, because we requested that information, we're able to see who viewed it. And again, we can break that down into individual case statistics and say, what were they most interested in? So that's going to be a great way where you can find out, who's really intimately interested in these concepts and actually include them into some sort of email campaign. Now, again, this doesn't necessarily have to be a lifetime gift. It could be a sample term conversion kind of concept where you could put together an example term conversion, say here's a typical existing term policy for this age demographic, and here are their conversion options. Set up another campaign with some information about converting your term policy, and send it out to your audience with a shared case where something they can play with, see the costs, and again, ultimately the call to action there might be, can you review my existing policy? Now, let's take a look at that. That's our next concept on how to do a term conversion case study. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a brand new client, and I will just call this term test. And again, I'll make my client a 50-year-old, middle of the road, male, non-smoker. Now again, I focus on a 50-year-old male non-smoker quite a bit, but it doesn't mean this concept doesn't work for really anyone. The younger you are, the more affordable your term plan is initially, but the more time you also have to grow cash value. And so, the younger my client, my general rule of thumb is build in some kind of term rider because cash flow is generally an issue when you are younger. Now, for general products, again, what you would want to do if you're looking for brand new rates is search the market through that LifeGuide integration. And again, if I've mentioned it one time, I've mentioned it 100. If you have LifeGuide, again, don't hesitate to get both softwares. You can turn those rates and everything in LifeGuide into branded professional presentations that compare those different values. And again, by having a LifeGuide subscription, you're entitled to a 50% discount. Now, one area where LifeGuide does not help us, though, is in our manual or existing policies. Because again, each policy that was sold has a unique renewal schedule, and from what I understand from Ami at LifeGuide, they are actually working on getting this into LifeGuide so that you would be able to research historical rates maybe more easily. Now, for now, what we'll have to do is actually go take a look at the contract here, and we'll go and say we want to enter a plus manual and select the different length of term. So if you're reviewing an existing term 20, select term 20. If you're reviewing an existing term 10, pick term 10. And the reason why we do this is the form is customized to know that is the renewal length. So when you enter the premium and all the renewals, it knows that they're spaced in a certain time frame and will apply that to the calculation. Now again, I'm going to give this a good name. I'm going to say existing term 10, and I might give this a description and say, we bought this with the intent of converting it. So again, some kind of custom message. And then again, what I want to do is I want to enter the premium schedule. So this one happens to be a policy I keep on my desk here. And this is this person was 45 years old when they bought this. Initially, the premium was $1,090. The first guaranteed renewal goes up to $7,360. The next one goes up to $20,900. And the following one goes up to $61,040. Now, this is when the renewals end. If there was another renewal, you could simply enter it. Depending on the age of the client, it will always give you the option for another one. The other thing is, again, if it was a monthly premium, we could tick that box saying it's a monthly premium. And the neat thing is you can actually do math. So if I said 30 times 2, it would actually do the math in there. So you can always enter it that way. Now again, I want to tell it when it's renewable to. This is when it's basically going to expire. This one is 85. And I can also say when it's convertible to. That's an important aspect of the policy as well, when they can convert to. And this one's age 75. And very important is the issue date. So again, as I said, this one was bought 5 years ago in 2012. It was actually a June policy of June 12th. So I put in the issue date. Now, our system essentially will use that issue date to find out how far into this renewal schedule we are. So even if you're past 10 years, you want to make sure you still put in from the very beginning what the costs were. And our system, based on the issue date, will decide and calculate how far into this policy we are. And again, for extra detail, I can include things like a policy number. And the neat thing too is, if I anticipate that I might use this policy and make other cases on it, I can also save this as an existing policy on file. And again, when I do that, it's going to make sure that it runs those notifications on this. So again, as it comes closer to that renewal at the kind of 3 years from, it will also feed me a notification. So again, I'm going to save as a policy, and then just save it. And again, it's going to add this product in there. And now we've got our existing term 10. Now, with the term conversion kind of sample case, again, one of my favorite comparisons is this to a whole life and a universal life. So again, I might do something like take this and say I want to search for rates to see who I could compare it to. Again, I don't necessarily have to go universal life. I could do whole life, and I could even use our LifeGuide integrated rates to search for whole life products. Now again, keep in mind when you do use the whole life search in this case, and this is $1 million benefit that I'm going to search for, that LifeGuide is only feeding us the guaranteed values of these policies. So a lot of times when you do the search, again, like a 20 to pay, what you'll find is you do get cash values on them, but keep in mind they are only guaranteed cash values, not the total. So they don't include that dividend. And again, I can go down the list and pick any company that I'd like. I tend to favor this when I do this kind of comparison. I do this Desjardins 20 pay because I'm more familiar with it as a guaranteed 20 pay. Feel free to pick your favorite company or even bring in a spreadsheet. I'm really just doing this for brevity, and we're going to pretend this is even an existing Desjardins Term 10 product, just for the sake of our compare. Now again, I can go ahead and I can generate this report, and we can take a look at how this comparison looks and see, where we're going with our existing term policy versus what we could potentially convert to. And again, a lot of people, when they're kind of setting these up, they might say, well, I want to throw everything on the moon to show my client. Again, I might start with a couple different comparisons. So, you might start with something that you think is ideal and do a one-on-one kind of comparison, one versus the other. And then if there are some objections, bring in some other plans. Or again, bring them in all from the start and have a couple different options for your client. It really depends on what you think is right for them. So I'll leave that up to the audience to kind of decide what you think is right. Again, though, a couple things I want to point out here. Our existing Term 10 here, you can see it's coded in red because it is more cautionary. It's coming up to that renewal. We've got our custom note here, bought with the intent to convert. We've got our insurance benefit, our issue date, policy number, and certain aspects of the policy that are critical. Again, you can see because we gave it an issue date 5 years ago, it knows that there's only 5 years until it jumps up to the next renewal point, and we've got the following renewable schedule there. So again, really great to condense all that information into one area. Again, when we go through and look at our analysis of it, we see that yes, the whole life is a lot more expensive until the client's about 66. And quite frankly, that's really, at 65 is usually when people start thinking about retiring. So even thinking about that premium going up or thinking about our health at that time, a very important aspect of this policy may be that at 20 years or at age 70, we get to show them that the premium goes down to zero. And again, that's very good from a cash flow management aspect. So even if we're just looking at this on a premium basis, forget any of that cash, again, we can see that comparison. And again, it really helps us put into perspective that this one expires, that it becomes more expensive in terms of renewal, so we may not even get there before the policy lapses. And again, even when we look at an overall cost or a raw accumulation, again, we can see that sum of premiums, see the break-even point. Again, I might recommend doing some of these with a PV as well, just in the sake of education to educate your clients that the thought process is that in the future, yes, that term renewal spikes up, but because of things like inflation, it may not be as drastic. I still like looking at raw accumulation in a lot of scenarios because sometimes clients don't necessarily plan for that, don't set aside the difference to really exercise time value of money. And quite frankly, it's a little bit of a wonky chart. It's a little bit simpler to look at, but it is something, or PV is, again, definitely an important concept for an accurate comparison too. Again, when we look at cash value, this is another thing. We want to look at deposits, and these are the guaranteed deposits versus the guaranteed cash value, as I've researched it from that Life Guide integration there. And again, you can see here that value. And then again, what we really want to see here is this, basically the sum of premiums and the premium deposit difference right next to that cash value. And again, this is a fully guaranteed cash value. So when we sort of look out over time and we say, okay, even by age 80, we would save $174,000, and for that savings, we'd have $605 built up. Even looking for sort of that break-even point, it looks like it's going to be right around that 20 years where that premium deposit difference really equals that guaranteed cash value. And for this client, it's right around year 17, where we'd say, that whole life was a little bit more expensive initially. For that difference that you've put in of $235,000, there's actually $238,000 of guaranteed cash value in the policy. And again, that gets better and better as we stop paying premiums in the whole life and the premiums increase in the term. And we can see, again, a pretty substantial premium deposit difference before this plan actually expires, and the other plan, that whole life, actually has some cash value to it. Now again, there's other ways to structure these sort of comparisons. So again, we could add perhaps a universal life in there. We might want to even compare that existing Term 10 to maybe something like a new term 10. So again, a lot of times I show these sort of comparisons and say, here's, kind of that home run of a term converted to whole life. And, it's not every day that a client actually has the cash flow to support that. So what if we looked at a term replacement and said, while you're still healthy, let's look at this versus another term policy. And this wouldn't be exactly, this one being 5 years old probably would likely fall into something like that. But again, I could also look at a term replacement and say, while you're healthy, we may want to show, maybe another term policy against that one. And say, what does a replacement look like? And now we've got our 2. And again, for this sort of one, I'd probably analyze it and say, you know what, we're looking at some term 10. Let's look at it for 10 more years and then see where we're at. And again, likely we're not going to hold this one too far out into the future if we're both looking at term, because again, as my stepfather would always say, term is like a diaper, and at some point you're going to have to change it. But again, really nice comparison of, looking at here's what you're paying now, your rate is going to increase. You can, basically lock back in and guarantee that insurability for the next 10 years, guarantee this low rate here. And when we look at that comparison out over 10 years, again, we naturally see the savings benefit. But again, we're going to want to have that conversion conversation again with this client, because again, at some point here in 10 years, that premium is going to increase. And again, that might be another nice thing to show, is not just the 10 years that we set it to. We might say, let's focus in on that 10 years. But, if we look out to age 99 for you and update that case, we're going to see what happens to that term product. And so now we've just pushed out the time frame. We're going to see them all till expiration. But again, no surprise. Term follows a very particular, very specific pattern. And again, they both end up in a very similar spot if we were even able to afford them getting there. So again, hopefully they'll see the value in the short term, especially of that conversion. Now, that brings us to the end of the webinar. We just had a couple of updates this month. The big updates, of course, are the requesting of clients. So again, when we go into that import area and we can request, we're going to see a lot of different companies that we can now request those spreadsheets for. And then ultimately, when we do get those spreadsheets, again, we're going to save them as a CSV and use our custom importer. Again, you can still use that generic import if you were using it. Feel free to have us assist in any of these areas. And again, if you're looking at our system coming from Enforce Pro, again, remember, you can bring in that entire CSV import all in one. One of the other small updates that we did as well is in the Universal Life area, you're going to notice that Empire Life UL has been added to the spreadsheet area. Again, if you're still finding that there's one out there that we haven't customized a spreadsheet for, let us know. And again, I'm going to mention it one more time for AMI, is that Life Guide subscribers do get a 50% discount to our services. So I want to thank everyone for joining our webinar today. If you have any questions at all or want to see anything on a future webinar, absolutely get in touch with us. Let us know what you think about them. But again, I want to thank you all for watching and have a great afternoon.